Hello, this is Justin Grover with Adobe Product Management, and I'd like to share some of the features that we've added to virtual report suites in the Adobe Analytics release in October of 2017. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to adjust a visit definition within a virtual report suite. So one of the things that we've added here is that we've made segments optional, and that's because a virtual report suite can now be more than just a segment that's applied to a report. It can also change the way the data is processed. So if I click continue here, I get taken to the visit definition tab, and what this does is this allows me to enable report time processing. What that means is we will actually calculate some of the things at report time as opposed to data collection time for that report suite. By doing this, it allows me to change the visit timeout. So typically visits have traditionally been 30 minutes in activity in the tool. I can change that anywhere from 1 minute clear up to 2 hours. In a later release, we'll add additional options there. But what this does is this allows me to be very precise about how I calculate a visit. And this is pretty typical for people who deal with mobile apps. Visits are often very different on a mobile app, and typically you want a much smaller timeout, say like 5 minutes or something like that. Additionally, what I can do is I can prevent background hits from starting a new visit. A background hit is simply a hit that the operating system on a mobile device sends in when the app is in the background, so the user is not actually using the information, using the app, but they are recording information that's useful. This can be useful for things like tripping a geofence, certain types of push messages, things like that. Finally, I can also have it start a new visit upon launch. So what this will do is this will allow us to start a new visit every time we receive a launch event from the SDK, regardless of what the visit timeout is. And so this can be really helpful if you're trying to get launches and visits to match up. One of the really interesting things that happens when you do this is this changes the definition for a visit everywhere in the product. So it changes it in the way we count in reporting, it changes it in the way that we do segmentation with a visit container, and it also changes the way we persist EVARs for things that expire on a visit. So let's go ahead and look at how this actually applies in the data. If I go over here to Workspace, I've set up a few different virtual report suites with different options. And so what we can do is if I have here, I have a 1 minute timeout, and so you can see that the number of visits that I have for the app is 1,600 for this time period. If I change that to say a 2 hour timeout, so I have another virtual report suite with a 2 hour timeout on the same data set, you can see that the number of visits that I have goes down because people have a longer window to get included in that session. I can also do things like a 5 minute timeout, which is a little somewhere in between. And then finally, if I go ahead and do a start on launch, you can actually see that the number is much lower because of the way that we're doing some of the processing there. What this does is this lets you fine-tune the way you record a visit, and we really recommend that you think pretty critically about what it is your application is doing and what a typical usage pattern is, and that can be very helpful as you're trying to figure out what the appropriate visit timeout is. Usually for mobile apps, we recommend somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 minutes. If it's a website, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 minutes, though that can change depending on the requirements of your business. One of the other things to note is this isn't just because it is a virtual report suite, it applies across all time. So when you change this setting, it actually you can go back and look at this in different ways. So it's a very non-destructive way to look at the data. You can play around with multiple report suites like I did here and try to change the definition to see what looks right and to do analysis to figure out what the right thing is without having to worry about future data implications for that. We hope you like this feature. We hope that it's useful for you, and we are excited to deliver this feature in the fall 2017 release.